Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for continuing to join us today. We are live with Nancy Naigle, and look how beautiful she looks. Like the sun is just behind her. She's glowing, and we're really thrilled she's here. So, Nancy, I'm going to exit and let you take the stage.
Okay. Hi. Thanks. Well, hey, everybody. This is so exciting. Oh, gosh. I zipped in this morning at the 8:30 welcome, and I want to start our session and this little talk with a big thank you to Jen and this entire team to us. It is so timely. Things are crazy out there, and it's hard to be able to connect with the people that we would normally see at conferences or book signings or out and about. And so being able to bring this virtually to y'all is just amazing and such a blessing. So big thanks to them, and thanks for you for coming and visiting with us. Appreciate that. So, it's no easy task to coordinate these kind of efforts, and it brought such joy to me to hear Jen talk about how things just fell into place. The Lord had spoken to her about bringing this together, and everybody she tapped or asked was gracious enough to come. And I was personally very humbled and delighted that she even considered asking me. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And when I asked her about a theme for the conference or this keynote, she said, well, just talk about whatever God gives you. So I did write a few notes because I do want you to hopefully get a few golden nuggets that you can tuck in your toolkit and that might help you on your journey. But I do want to be able to have a lot of question and answers too, because at the end of the day, this is your precious time. And if there's something I can answer for you or help clarify or demystify, I would be happy to do it. So happy too that since this isn't in person, we don't have to wear face masks, because I don't know about y'all, but I am having a real struggle with the face mask. Every time I talk, I must inhale a lot when I talk. Maybe it's a Southern thing. I don't know. But I feel like I'm sucking in that fabric, and I never can get a good sentence out. So most of the day I'm pulling that face mask away from my mouth just to be able to talk to people. So at least we're not doing it with face masks. But I can't see you, so feel free to shoot us a note or comments in your chat. I've got Michelle behind the screens that's going to help me identify when you all are asking questions and kind of keep us on time and everything. So thank you, Miss Michelle. I appreciate that. And so I just wanted to say, let's see, I've got these notes and I'm going to use them to keep me on task, because if I start telling a story, it'll take a whole hour, and I don't want that to happen. But so you're in the right place. You're definitely in the right place today. The best thing you can do is surround yourself with other writers, other creatives, and even if they're in your genre or not, it doesn't matter. But we definitely feed off of each other and can inspire and help each other. And writing can be very lonely. So having a network or a fellowship of people that you can turn to as you're writing and creating can be so helpful. You don't want to get stumbled, and especially in these times where we're separated so much, you don't want to get tugged into the news and all the craziness that's out there that'll tug you away from your journey. Because the one thing we all have in common here today is that we want to tell stories, and we are opening up people's emotions to laugh and love and cry and grieve and be afraid sometimes, that otherwise could stay locked in people's hearts and minds. And so we have been given such a powerful gift, the gift of story, to be able to do that and affect people's lives. It's nice to get fan mail where people say they loved your book, but the most poignant and important messages that I get are the ones where my story has touched someone in a way that I never even intended. People pull their own experiences from our stories, and we may not allude to or thought we alluded to anything at all that had to do with their situation, but they hear that message. And those are the things that let me know that my journey in writing really has been fostered by the Lord, and I truly believe that. And I know yours is too. So together we are going to tell the stories that are in our hearts, and without the purpose of going out to solve something for someone, it will happen. The Lord will put those words in people's minds and hearts where they belong. So we can just kind of be the the vessel, and then he can navigate the rest. And that takes a lot of pressure off, because writing is hard work, very hard work. And even after over 30 books, every book is difficult. And every book, I wonder if I'm going to be able to, make it better than the last book, which is my goal, because I want readers to continue to want to read the stories I have to share, and continue to feel something good and hopeful in them. So let's see what I've got here. Oh, well, we've all, how do we begin writing? A lot of y'all are probably sitting there. You knew you were going to be a writer from the day you were first put together and spelling dog. I wasn't those girls. I was a voracious reader, and we lived right up the street from the Kempsville Library. And every summer they'd have the reading program where you get a circle, a colored construction paper circle, and it would make up a caterpillar around the library of every person and what book they read. And being a little competitive, I would read voraciously, because I wanted to have the most colored circles on that caterpillar around the library. So I was a huge reader. And whenever things went wrong, I read a lot. I never, ever, not once thought about writing as a career. I always knew I wanted to be a business girl. I graduated from high school when I was 16, a year early, and I was chomping at the bit to get out into the work world. I could not wait. And had a great career. And my position that I retired from in 2014 was a senior vice president with Bank of America. And my position was in technology and quality and audit. And it was a great career. But when I turned 40, my job shifted, and I was given a great opportunity from a business perspective, but my position required me to send jobs offshore. And that was really hard. A lot of those people had worked for me before, and I was given American jobs away. And although from a business perspective, I knew it was the right decision and I did a good job, it hurt me inside. And that's when I really started doing some soul searching. And I think a lot of us do that at 40. But for me, I think I just see where these comments are supposed to be coming up. Oh my gosh, I can see y'all's comments now. I couldn't see them before. I'm sorry. Anyway, I was doing that soul searching, and I thought, I don't want to be known as the girl who shipped all the jobs away, or let people go that I had known. I wanted to be known for something else. And I thought about what things had touched my life the most. When I was sad or upset or depressed or worried, what really changed my life? It was books. And I had shelves everything Jane Ann Krenz had ever written. All her stories were there, all the Debbie Maycombers, all the Robin Carr, all of that stuff. And I thought, gosh, if I could write one book to help one girl through one lousy day, that would be amazing. It took me a long time to write that first book. I joined RWA and started learning some things about craft, because I'll be honest, I didn't even know where to put the quote marks. I could write you a business paper, but I could not write a story. And I wrote the first book. It was called Sweet Tea and Secrets. And it took almost 9 years to get that first book published. And my life changed so much while I was writing. I continued to write for 9 years, working, mostly doing my writing on cross-country trips from Virginia to LA to Calabasas office. And US Airways probably had a lot of credit for those first books. But as I started writing and started learning more about myself through those stories, I really started finding my own voice and my purpose. And when I look back at that, I didn't even realize how much my life was changing at the time. I'm so blessed and thankful every day that the Lord put this in front of me, because I certainly didn't have the chops to do it. But He arms us with what we need to do the jobs He gives us, and He certainly has done that. I took an early retirement from Bank of America to write full time. Not because the writing career was so fabulous, but I had lost my husband in 2014 to a really short battle with cancer. And if nothing will open your eyes, it will be that kind of loss. And we had been married for almost 20 years. And I knew that life was short, had stories to tell, and I wanted to touch lives in in a more special way. So that's how I started writing. I started out writing for a small press and then Montlake Romance, who is the division under Amazon Publishing that does romance. And it was funny because early on, I remember turning in books in the Sweet Tea and Secrets series. And I think it might have been Mint Juleps and Justice. I got a note back from my editor and it said, did you mean to leave out this scene where they're together? I said, no, I didn't forget. I meant to leave it out. It had me go back and spice it up a little, but it was never my comfortable place. So as I've written, when I got past books 10 and 11, things started becoming easier for me to follow my own voice. I had the confidence to follow my stories the way that I wanted to tell them. So the stories have become sweeter and kinder and more hope-filled and more full of community and small towns. And you guys know, if anybody's read any of my books, you know how much I love small towns. I grew up in Virginia Beach. I did not grow up in a small town, but my husband and I had a farm in a small town in Virginia. And the Adams Grove series was actually named after the small town that was right up next to where we lived, because the Druryville novels didn't sound quite as attractive as the Adams Grove novels. And there's a little sign on Route 58. When people read those books and they love them, and they love Pearl, who's the matriarch of the town, and she's got so many pearls of wisdom. I just love that old lady. But people will send me notes and say, oh my gosh, I was driving down Route 58 and I saw the Adams Grove sign. I didn't have time to stop. And I'm like, well, that's okay. Don't stop. There's nothing there. There's a church and the Ruritan Club and a railroad track. And that is it. There is no bakery. There is no sheriff's office. There is no adorable library or hardware store. So, but if we do our job right, we can whisk people away to places they've never been. And whether they're fictional or real places, it's an important thing. It's a gift. We've been given such a big gift. So don't be afraid to draw your readers into those fun places and towns and experiences. So I'm going to peek at my notes and see what other things I have written. And I probably should have worn my sunglasses because it's really, really bright out here. I hear people say sometimes, well, I'm not a writer. I'm just working on a book. And I want to dismiss that myth right here and now. If you're writing, you're a writer. Be proud of it, own it, be grateful and thankful for it, and share it. I am an honest to goodness believer that it's not a matter of if you get published, but when. It definitely takes some tenacity and patience. I mean, 9 years is a long time to get published, but it happens. And when it does, things will happen fast and furiously. So be ready. Keep on writing. Don't wait for that first book to get published. But you never know when doors are going to open for you. The first magazine article that I ever had published was in Brighton Living magazine, which I am a Brighton nut. I love their jewelry. It's not too expensive. It's fun. The charms are adorable. And I treat myself every time I have a new book come out to new charms. So my charm bracelet's really full now. But I had posted on Twitter a little safety pin that you could put on your shirt or whatever. And it had a little teddy bear and a guitar and a star on it and a camera. And I had posted a picture of those charms that I had picked out for my novel Out of Focus. And I posted it on Twitter. And darn if that little post, which had no intent except to share a fun, happy day, a moment with others, ended up being found by somebody at Brighton Living magazine. And they contacted me and wanted to do an article in Brighton Living about writing from the heart, or writing from the heart, I think is what it was called. But you don't know, what doors are going to open for you and where they are. So keep your ears listening, keep your eyes open, continue to network and make friends, because you just don't know how everything is going to link together. Just trust that it will. I promise you it will. Believe in yourself and believe that God's given you this gift. You will find the right words. Now, I'm going to say, sometimes I think he's a bit of a procrastinator because I do usually come up with my best ideas, which I know are from him, at the very last minute near deadline. So I'm not taking full accountability for that. Because he always does bring me the right story. But sometimes I sure wish it had been a week before deadline instead of the night before. I have found myself rewriting whole chapters sometimes just because, why didn't I think of that before? I think he does his proofreading at the end. Oh, oh goodness, too funny. One of the some of my girlfriends and I were talking about was, what was the piece of advice that you would give authors? And in fact, Lori Foster and I were talking about this one day last year at her conference. And I said, I think the biggest piece of advice, and I wish I had gotten this, I came from a business background. And so research and really delving into the how-tos, what-tos, and the rules was easy. I did all that. But I wish I'd have known that I just needed to tell my story my way. I found in that first book that started out as luck would have it, turned into Pearls of Wisdom. I realized it incorporated everything that 6 books should have, split it up, tore it apart, and created that whole series of Adam's Grove out of it. That I was going through so many critique groups and getting so much feedback and trying to apply all of it that I had edited out my own voice. So here's the thing. Anybody could tell a story. We could all tell the same story. But what's different is our voice. That's the only thing that we bring to the party, is the voice that God's given us, our uniqueness. So don't be afraid to tell it your way, even if it might be a little bit of a rule breaker. I mean, know the rules. Absolutely. You want to know them. But it's okay to talk the way you talk when you write. It's okay to break those rules intentionally. And you don't want to have someone edit out your uniqueness, because it might not be the recipe for everybody, but there will be people out there that will connect to it. And I have met so many small town girls, or really, I've met a lot of big city girls that just love small towns. Because even though people say, well, small town romances are dying, nobody's buying small town romances. You know what? There is always an audience for every story. So write what you feel that you need to write. Don't be afraid of the trends or anything. In fact, they're saying small town romances aren't selling. I signed 2 different contracts this year. I've got my St. Martin's Press, who I've done all the Christmas books with. We've signed for 3 more books with them, and I signed my first contract with Waterbrook Press, and I'm really excited about that one. I've got The Shell Collector coming out next summer with them, and it's a story that's really close to my heart, and a really special story about loss and grief and helping each other overcome that. And probably a story I never would have been ready to write until this year. 2014 seems like so long ago, but it doesn't feel that long ago sometimes. But I'm really excited to be able to share that story. And it was a hard story to write sometimes. But I hope I'll connect with a lot of hearts and give some gals that are going through that some hope and faith, and even understanding about some of the crazy things that grief will make you feel. So that's a special gift that we can share. So hold on to your gifts. And in The Shell Collector, we talk a lot about gifts too. I think you'll love that book. I can't wait till it comes out. One of the other myths I was going to talk about was not being afraid that you're going to run out of ideas. You're not going to run out of ideas. I promise you. Write everything you've got. I used to in the very beginning when I was writing the Adams Grove series, that first 6-book series. I remember I had this great idea, and I was turning in Mint Juleps and Justice. And I had this great idea on how I was going to write the next book in the series. And I made the mistake of telling my editor about it. And she was like, oh, no, 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 you need to go ahead and integrate that into this book. And I was like, well, then I might not know what to write on the next book. And she's like, you'll know, you'll know. And so I learned the hard way, because I ended up having to like rewrite the whole end of that book because of that great idea. But she was right. I've never run out of ideas. And one thing just seems to lead to another. You know, I've got this great love for cars. Always been crazy about cars. The Jackson Barrett auctions and the Mecum auctions. And I even took a little road trip down to see the Mecum auction in person. And when I came back from that trip, I ended up writing Every Yesterday about a girl whose daddy was a real car crazy man. And when he passes away, it's kind of the last thing she's got of his. And about a guy in the car. And originally, he really only wants to call her, but he does fall in love with her. But then she doesn't doubt. She doubts that he's serious. So there was that story. And then Life After Perfect is about a woman who thinks her life is perfect and stumbles upon the fact that it's not, and gets a second chance. And that was picked up as a Princess Cruises book club pick. And while I was on a cruise to Alaska on the Love Boat, the Pacific Princess, I got to go to a glass blowing excursion in Skagway. It was so much fun. I had the best time. And the young artist that was teaching us how to blow these simple little ornaments, does amazing artwork. When I went in the gallery, I was shocked at just the gorgeous works. And his name was Keeper Knott. And I told him while I was there, and he was showing me how to blow the glass, and we were, using those big long tubes, and it was hot, and that stuff is heavy, and I just never realized how physical it was. And I said, I think I'm going to need to write about a glass blowing hero. And so Until Tomorrow has a glass blowing hero in it. I just love how the world and the Lord, gives us tools to write at every turn. So just keep yourself going out there, living life. I mean, writing can be very solitary, but we can't write if we're not continuing to fill the well, talk to people, embrace opportunities, get outside. I hope y'all can see me okay, because, and there are 2 butterflies just went by. But get outside and live life and enjoy nature. You're going to be refilled with ideas beyond your ability to ever write them all. Remember the Budweiser commercials, the ones with the little puppy, and he runs away or he gets out of the horse trailer and runs off, and he's full of mud, and he barks at the coyotes, and the Clydesdales are behind him, but he doesn't know it. He's a big bad dog. And the little horse trainer, he's so handsome, and the Clydesdales are always there to kind of save the day. I still love those commercials. Well, those commercials were part of the inspiration for my Christmas book that'll be out next month. And it's called A Heartfelt Christmas Promise. And I don't have Clydesdales, I have Percherons, because one of the friends of ours here in Kernersville, North Carolina, owns a Percheron farm. And I've had the awesome opportunity to go out there when they've just foaled. And let me tell you, those Percheron foals are huge. I think they're as big as Tudor, my Palomino that I ride, when they're born. But they're just so majestic and gorgeous and powerful, I mean, they're engines. They were engines before we had engines. And they're part of that book. And boy, I had so much fun writing that story. And it's set in the mountains of North Carolina. And there's a lot of lush and green, and, a town that really pulls together no matter what. And parades and snow angels and you name it. But that little puppy does his number on the folks in this book too. And so you just never know. It certainly isn't about beer. But that commercial sure did drive some excitement in my life. So it's been fun. And the cover of that book's got the little puppy on it. So we've had a lot of fun with that. I just can't wait for it to come out. I think it's going to make a lot of people smile and laugh. I'm going to take a quick look at my notes again and make sure I'm not forgetting to tell y'all something. Just like your investment portfolios, I've always looked at my writing career in the same way. You know, I try not to put all my eggs in one basket. I try to diversify. I don't chase the trends, but you know, I do try to make sure that, you know, a lot of people say, you know, well, you have to do ebooks or you have to do this. No, you don't have to do any of it. But I find that the different publishers bring different readers to your books. You know, Hallmark Publishing has been a lot of fun to work with, and my relationship with them was actually after I would have the great opportunity to have those movies done, which also came from a tweet. And maybe I didn't tell you this. So a few years ago, I've always been a Hallmark nut. So I'm a pajama nut, got more pajamas than most women have shoes. I'm a Brighton jewelry nut. And I'm a Hallmark nut. And Pureflix. Pureflix is my new favorite. I can really count on them. But anyway, was doing a Facebook party. Ever done that? Oh my gosh, it's so fun. So you're going to watch the movie anyway. And anybody that loves Hallmark is definitely a friend of mine. So I was doing a Hallmark pajama party. And this is before I ever had a movie on the channel. And the Christmas Note was coming out. Well, for anybody that knows me, I was born and raised in Virginia Beach, right there near Norfolk, Virginia, which is a huge military presence. So the Christmas Note had a military angle to it. And I thought, well, that's perfect. You know, it's just a good fit. So I tweeted about my Facebook party and I got a tweet back from the Christmas Note. And it said, thanks for helping us build buzz about our new movie. And I was tickled by the tweet. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so welcome. I then told them why I was so excited about it. And then a couple days later, I got a private message from them. And it said, oh my gosh, we didn't know you were an author. Maybe one day one of your books will be a Hallmark movie. And when I got that, my heart kind of leapt because, you know, I had always dreamed of having a Hallmark movie. My agent had set me on my heels pretty quickly and said, Nancy, a lot of movies get optioned, not many get made. It is a long shot at best. So she had set my expectations, but still, when I got that little tweet, I was so excited. And all I sent back was, thank you so much. A girl can dream. Well, 2 weeks later, my agent got a call from Crown Media about Christmas Joy. Boy, joy doesn't even begin to explain it, except Christmas Joy wasn't even edited yet. And that was in January. I had turned that book in the May previous. So it had been 7 months since I'd even looked at that book. We got on the horn, got with my editor. We edited that baby quick so we could still get it back to Crown Media while they were interested. And they optioned it. Couldn't have been more excited. And of course, you know, my agent reminded me again, lots of things get optioned. They don't all turn into movies. Okay. Still, I was hoping and praying and so delighted anyway. And then later that fall, they contacted me again and optioned Hope at Christmas, which was the book that was coming out that year. Which is just well, of course you've seen it, maybe. It's on Hallmark too. And, but that's the one with the bookstore and the book tree. I loved the book tree and I'm so glad they were able to include it in the movie. But the following year on Valentine's Day, I was out on my patio and Andrew was cooking us dinner and my phone rang. And I try not to ever, you know, answer my phone if we're having family time. And he said, well, I said, I won't answer that. And he said, well, who is it? I said, oh my gosh, it's my agent. He goes, well, answer it. So I did. And she said to me, Nancy, I would never, ever, ever call and disturb you on Valentine's. But Crown Media is putting Christmas Joy into production. Oh my gosh, we had the best Valentine's night ever. I did feel a little bad because, you know, we had cooked steaks and it was so romantic, but I will admit the movie kind of overshadowed it a little. So we were excited and we celebrated big time. And they were going to production just 2 weeks later. So I was on a plane in just 2 weeks to Vancouver is where they shot Christmas Joy and to be on set and meet with the cast. And oh my gosh, it was so surreal. And I could talk about that for an hour in itself. So if you have any questions about that stuff, you let me know. I will tell you this. I spent just about the whole time I was on set in tears. So much so that the producer came over and said, Nancy, do you like it? And I was like, yes. And she gave me a hug and said, well, then you can cry all you want. But being on set is amazing, and seeing your words and your thoughts and your emotions come to life was just crazy. Uh, the funniest part too was that while I was there, the first scene that I got to watch them film was my favorite scene in the whole book of Christmas Joy, when the ornament breaks. And I won't give too much away in case you haven't seen it or read the book. But oh, I get chills even just thinking about it now. So anyway, after that, Hallmark Publishing was getting its feet underneath them, and they invited me originally to be the voice of their Christmas and Evergreen books or movies. So I've written the novels to the movies, which in itself is really interesting because, when you're writing a novel, we have the ability to create the whole world any way we want it. And of course, we want to make it beautiful and to our readers, they can see it. So, well, I get the screenplay when I write those books, but I thought it was going to be super easy. I'm like, well, you've got all the dialogue. It'll just be adding in some stuff. It took me as long to write those books as it does for me to write something that I have plotted on my own. And I'll tell you, for me, being such a Hallmark fan, they create a beautiful vision and mindset. And to be able to live up to that when you know that people have already seen it for real was a big challenge. And I hope I've done well. People seem to really like those books, and the movies are so great. I just love them. So I've written Christmas and Evergreen, Letters to Santa, Christmas and Evergreen, Tidings of Joy, which comes out in November. The movie came out last year, and there's a fourth one in the works. So hopefully they'll have me continue to be the voice of the Christmas and Evergreen brand. It's just been amazing. I really enjoy that. But the point that I'm saying, I told you I can be such a blabbermouth. I could go on and on. The point that I was trying to make was to diversify your portfolio of work. So I've got my Hallmark books that pull in those Hallmark viewers. I've got audio books that bring in the audio readers, books in libraries, which that's always so important to me personally. And I know a lot of folks are like, oh, but you're not going to make that much money off of them. For me, just twofold. Number one, I was always so thrilled to be able to find and absorb material in my library. I'm just a huge fan of libraries anyway. But, being on that shelf for me is more important to be able to be available to others than the dollars. The dollars will come. I don't worry about that. But I do love having that big, lush hardcover library edition, the print, the digital, the audio. And I usually do a Pinterest board for every book I write. And I do that for me personally. And in the beginning, sometimes I'll hide them in the beginning while I'm writing. I've gotten a little less that way. And I figure, it doesn't matter. People can see what I'm looking up. That'll be fun. So I do a Pinterest board for every single book. And, includes, sometimes they're people, but a lot of times it's the recipes and the crafts and, just fun things that have to do with the stories. And I guess it gives people kind of a peek into my mindset too. Because I do a lot of research on things that hardly even end up in the book. When I wrote Sand Dollar Cove, that was actually just a novella that was in a whole group for an anthology that Brenda Novak put together to raise money for diabetes research, because her son's diabetic. And I used to help her on her auctions. And that year, they weren't doing the auction. We just did these books. And we raised quite a bit of money for diabetes. And I loved it. So that's what I wrote the story for. It was supposed to be, I think, a 10,000 word book. And I think mine was 40. And Brenda had the same problem. We just couldn't write short. So people got it. It was this rock bottom deal. Well, I later went ahead and published that because people enjoyed the story so much. But in Sand Dollar Cove, which is, oh my gosh, it's set on the Outer Banks, but it's a fictional place that you can just walk and your toes are just digging up sand dollars all over the place. It's so neat. And I have people call and ask me where to go for it. There is a couple of places in North Carolina you can go and see 1,000,000 sand dollars, but this was just a fictional one. But one of the things that I researched for that book was popsicles. because my heroine in that story, Ellie, she had a popsicle stand on the pier, and when she was in college, and that was how she kind of made extra money, and it worked so well that she continued keeping that popsicle stand open, and she let college kids run it and make money every year. And so one of the things I researched was popsicles and how to make popsicles and the flavors. And I'll tell you that my personal favorite, I think, is watermelon. And especially if you can make it from the watermelons you've grown in your yard, it's pretty awesome. So there was a lot of popsicle recipes on the Pinterest board for Sand Dollar Cove, which is also supposed to be a Hallmark movie. It was going to go to production this spring. And of course, it got the COVID scoop. Hopefully it will still go to production in the future. But, you never know. They might get something better and may never become a movie, because it's not a movie until it's in production. But it's a fun story, and I'm excited about that one too. Let's see. Whew, my nose is itching. There. So let's see. I know I have one more point, because I put down points here because they really aren't their own stories. There we go. Whew. So I was going to talk to you about writers' conferences like this one. To me, I can't wait. I'm so excited that this one is here today for us, and we were able to do it in this media. Wish I could see y'all, though. It'd be a lot more fun if we could smile and laugh together. But, usually I go to 15 events a year, and it is exhausting, and it's expensive. So I think bringing this kind of learning opportunity to this format and being able to do it for free, wow, or even just a few dollars towards, some kind of program or cause is really something we should all think about. And, everybody on this list that I see over here in the comments, every one of us has something to contribute. Don't doubt that for a second. And it might be how you de-stress after a long writing day, how you get your ideas, how you market, how you brand. I mean, every single one of us brings something to the table. I'm not an expert. I'm by far, far away from being an expert about anything. But what I do have is a big passion for writing, a big passion for sharing stories, and for being able to talk with people and be sincere and share my life and my experiences and hopefully help them. So, I think if we're honest in our writing, it really comes through. I'm not of the mindset that, well, you can write anything. For me personally, it has to be something that you're really sincere about. I think people can read it a mile away if you're not. So I am going to open this up to questions and answers, because I want you to get what you need out of this. Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Nancy.
Can they see us both?
They can see us both right now. So I have been just reading. There are so many comments about how this has been incredibly helpful, and people just laughing away. So let me see. I did see a question that came in, and I tagged it, but now I can't find it. Okay. So Patricia, do you see the question on the screen?
Do you teach how to write screenplays, screenwriting? I'd like to take a class. Patricia, no, and I'm learning that myself. In fact, I'm on my second one, and it's so different from writing a novel. So different. I have been taking some classes through Stage 32. You might take a look at that. There was also a neat conference that was going to happen in Atlanta before the COVID thing kicked it off. That was a screenwriting class for a day. And I was so excited to be able to go to that. But I have been devouring books on screenwriting and taking the classes on Stage 32. There's some that are like $5. And, you know, any little golden nugget you can get will help you. But the two disciplines are so different. And I think for me, one of the things that's making it a little easier to embrace is being able to have seen my book go from a book to a screenplay. You know, the two, you know, people always say the book is better. Thank goodness, right, for us. But there's so much story in your novel. There's so much scenery. There's just so much that never would go into the screenplay. And your screenplay also is only about 100 pages long, about 20,000 words in dialogue. You know, my novels are 88,000 words or so. It is such a small subsection of your book that getting down to what makes a good movie is very different. So yeah, definitely a learning curve. But I hope you'll take a look at those. If you have other questions about maybe where you can find some resources or which of the books I've liked, shoot me a quick note. I will send you a list of them. That goes for any of y'all. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. But you can find me on Facebook, easy as pie. And share my journey. We can go on it together.
That's fantastic. And I'm seeing that some folks are familiar with Stage 32, so they think, great, we can connect. So you might be getting a couple of connect.
Yes.
I'm absolutely, yeah. So a lot of people were, myself included, that nature, going out and getting that creativity and just refreshing your brain. Absolutely.
Yes. And I see some of our folks are in Texas and Houston about the storm coming through, the two storms on the Gulf Coast. Yeah, so hopefully I'm supposed to be in Cancun next week. That's our big vacation, and they are all masked and ready for us there. So hopefully it'll still be there for me to go. And I'm ready to fill my well too. The turtles are laying eggs. Right.
You have to get videos of that and share.
So in a novel near you, probably coming soon. But I'm really excited about being there for that again. So
awesome. So I had a question just around Pinterest and just have you found that helps you connect with your fans? And I know that you were like, you hit it when you first were doing it, but then you were like, oh, I'll just share it out. Have you heard from folks about how helpful it's been for them?
I have, and I don't know that it's helpful, but I think it's fun that I've made more connections with readers on a personal level, like around some of the crafts and the Christmas stuff, where in the recipes. They're like, oh my gosh, I make that too. Or they write me and say, oh, I love that. Here's one of my recipes. And so, yeah, I don't know that it's like a book selling tool or anything like that. But for me, it's been more of a personal connection that I probably never would have had with a reader, if it hadn't been for that. And I think it's fun too, for them to realize how much stuff that never made it into that book that, that you found. And then they'll be like, oh, that's why, Ellie did this. That's how she became, had that hobby.
I'm a reader's writer, I call myself. So I'm like a super fangirl of other authors. So
oh my gosh, yes.
So Sherry had a question. So she's a beginning writer. Woohoo! So asking about resources to support the process. So
well, you were in the right place today, Sherry, for sure. And all the people that you see in these chat boxes, I mean, make friends with them on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. Build that network. It's absolutely a great way to do it. I'm a member of ACFW. They have a great resource of all kinds of stuff that you can leverage. And I think the classes and stuff are great. Like I said, I think you need to, at contests, great way to get feedback. But I think the biggest thing is take what makes sense to you and apply that, and then set the other stuff aside. Think about it, consider it. And I always consider all the feedback I get, but at the end of the day, you want your voice to come through in your story, because that's the only thing unique you're going to bring to the table. Everybody else can write all the same stuff. You don't want to do that. But network, ask people, what's your favorite writing book? I like Truby does great stuff about plotting. And when I wrote my first, gosh, I bet the first 10 books I wrote, I plotted just by accident. I think God's the good plotter, and he just told me how to write, and that's how it happened, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what the black moment was or any of that stuff. And that was like 10 books in. I mean, now I understand because I read all the books, but they didn't make sense to me. And the more experience I got, the better I got at the craft. So I think you just want to keep writing and writing and writing. And even if you think it's garbage, you can fix that stuff. Set it aside, keep it, because you'll probably resuscitate it. It might need some major CPR and life support, but you can do it. Well, good luck, Sherry. I can't wait. Keep me posted on your journey.
Awesome. All right. If there are no more questions, I'm just put up Betty's fan of Hallmark. Looking forward to the books you've written, and we've just been seeing a bunch of those. Thank you. Your time has been incredibly valuable.
Oh, you're so welcome.
You're such a breath of fresh air. So.
Well, Christmas Joy and Hope at Christmas and The Secret Ingredient are all on now, or have been on last night. Hope at Christmas, if you haven't read it, save your pennies until September 29th, because it comes out mass market for the first time. So way cheaper than that trade paperback. But yeah, just keep on watching and listening. And thank y'all for letting me come and chat with y'all. I hope I've imparted some little thing, if nothing else, just to hang in there and, keep doing what you do, because, we're all on this journey for a reason.
And Nancy, are you all on the internet, Beyonce's internet? Is it Nancy Naigle with everything, or?
Yep, NancyNaigle.com, and it's just Nancy Naigle on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. I'm there and easy to find. And I'll be happy to respond to you if you send me a note. So.
Okay, go connect with Nancy, folks. Thank you so much again. And we'll be jumping into the next session in just a little bit. So look forward to continuing the day.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thanks, y'all. Okay. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.